Tonight, we are going in depth on what is a big legal victory for State Superintendent Ryan Walters. Yesterday, a judge in Oklahoma City threw out the lawsuit challenging the implementation of the state's new social studies standards that include more teachings about Jesus Christ and controversies around the COVID pandemic and the 2020 election. These will be in place for your child next school year. After intense disagreements,
that was a misled, so I feel deceived on that, because here we are still talking about the standards, and that time frame could have come and gone, and we could have reviewed them.
No action from the legislature, and then a lawsuit.
There has to be a recourse by citizens when there's a process like this that is so flawed. No vote by the legislature, and then an action of a state agency becomes law.
The path has now been cleared for the state's new controversial social studies standards to take effect next school year. The standards are considered controversial because of the increase in Christian religious instruction and ask students to look into the origins of COVID-19 and discrepancies in the 2020 presidential election.
What we're trying to do is give your kid an understanding of history in America, where America came from, what beliefs influenced those individuals, so that then they can understand American history.
The judge in the case wrote the plaintiffs did not cite any law or statute that supports their concerns that the standards interfere with their legally protected rights. The judge also noted the Board of Education and state lawmakers reserve the right to make revisions in the future. In a statement, which we have not altered, Superintendent Ryan Walters said, quote, "Oklahoma kids will be taught facts, not indoctrination. That will be taught to critically think and not become liberal activism. I am unapologetic that students will receive a pro-America education as the days of pushing woke, DEI, CRT, and anti-American propaganda in our schools are over." As part of this new curriculum, the superintendent insists that there will be Bibles in every classroom, but state lawmakers refused $3 million in new spending for Bibles for all classrooms in this next state budget. The superintendent said on this very program a few months ago that singer Lee Greenwood was raising money to buy Bibles and donate them to Oklahoma classrooms.
Sure. Listen, when you have someone who reaches out to help the state of Oklahoma, our answer is yes. So we appreciate this opportunity. We're very excited about it. This is one option to help get Bibles in the classroom, so we're excited to partner with Lee on it.
We have not received an update yet on just how many Bibles have been raised for Oklahoma classrooms by Greenwood so far and how many we can actually expect to arrive next fall. One of the main reasons Walters' request to buy Bibles was turned down by state lawmakers is that he insists the Bible that be used in classrooms is the one endorsed by President Donald Trump, called the God Bless the USA Bible. Lawmakers have voiced concerns that there were cheaper options out there, that kids could also use free Bible apps on their computers, but the superintendent was not interested in them, and they in return were not interested in his funding proposal. Last fall, when State Superintendent Ryan Walters ordered 500 Bibles to be placed in all AP or advanced placement history courses across the state, he purchased them with state money, but then many districts treated them worse than when you give someone a fruitcake at Christmas time. Many, if not all, never actually made it to students. Local districts and even the state Supreme Court recently have reaffirmed what is called local control. That means the district, not Walters, gets to decide how to best implement curriculum and what materials they use to do so. You may remember this back and forth with Edmond Public Schools 2 Februaries ago when Walters tried to punish Edmond Public Schools for what he said was porn in their library. But what Edmond said were novels that have tough stories mentioning sexual assault that teach kids that life isn't all sunshine and rainbows.
Edmond Public Schools is fighting to keep pornography on their shelves and are challenging our rule to keep pornography out of the classroom. This is unbelievable.
I also just want to make a point that I feel like is going to probably be heard in the news or social media. We do not have pornography in our libraries. If you hear that, that is not true.
The state Supreme Court ruled for Edmond, saying that local districts and not Walters nor the State Board of Education have the power to regulate the reading materials on school shelves and the materials they use to teach. That is why your local school board and the elections for them are so important. One of the biggest things Walters has said and even done to an extent since taking office is that any teacher or administrator who doesn't comply with his directives could have their teaching certificate suspended or revoked. If a teacher doesn't follow these directives next year, the recourse is still there, but it's a bit different now. This past legislative session, Walters' power over licenses or certificates was actually weakened by state lawmakers. House Bill 1277 will become law on July 1st, and it will be in effect next school year. It specifically says no one anyone with a teaching certificate can have that suspended or revoked except for violations of state and federal law, child abuse or neglect, or if they have issues of moral turpitude, or if there are convictions of any crimes. There can be emergencies declared for certain cases. That power was also updated and reaffirmed to also say the power to suspend or revoke is upon the Board of Education and not solely with the superintendent. That Board of Education is now controlled by the governor, and we have seen new members who have been told to not play politics anymore, but to focus on reading and math. A teacher also now has the right to be notified in a timely manner. Their certificate is up for consideration, and they have the right to a hearing to defend themselves now. Before the lawsuit was filed to try to stop the new social studies standards, a parents group was circulating opt-out forms online. While this form itself is not the actual form you would use to opt your child out at your specific district, the State Department of Education says you can opt your kids out of certain parts of this instruction.
So we came up with these opt-out forms. We made sure that we consulted with an attorney to make sure that they are legally sound, and they give parents the option to opt their students out of those parts of the standards that they don't agree with.
Similarly to sex education, parents can fill out a form similar to this and give it to their school district and then receive the next steps on how their child can meet state requirements while avoiding certain parts of these standards. The superintendent's office told Fox 23 on this form it's not enforceable. But listen closely, quote, "This group and other radicalized groups like them will never have the opportunity to indoctrinate Oklahoma students with woke, divisive, and radicalized agenda. There is a specific process in place for parents to opt their child out of certain lesson plans if that is what they choose." The controversy over these standards is not over, however. The State Textbook Committee will start to meet soon to accept offers from book printers over who can offer the instruction that meets state standards at a fair price. Right now, traditional textbook makers do not offer something that fits the criteria of these social studies standards yet. We will just have to wait and see what is offered over the course of the next year.